Two experts in ICF.
Yeah.
Decades of experience. One podcast.
Yeah.
Two hosts with a lot to say.
Look, I cannot sit through a struggle. I gotta get up and hustle. I gotta push through the pain, cause really that's how you build muscle.
Welcome to the Build with ICF podcast with your hosts, Trevor Brown and Heather Herring Brown. Yep, they're a package deal. With over 20 years of ICF installation experience, Trevor can throw down some expertise on sales, marketing, and training. On the other side of the table sits Heather, aka the girl boss, and she's earned the title as the owner of an award-winning ICF construction company, a drafting and design company specializing in ICF. And the numbers? With a master's in accounting, she does that too. Sleeves up, boots on. This is the Build with ICF podcast.
I don't want nothing for free. I'm here to work. Been through the dirt. I've been through the dirt, yeah.
Okay. So this, what episode is this? 75?
75.
Oh yeah, 75. This week has been a busy week. I mean, I guess all weeks right now are super busy.
Yeah, they're all busy.
I know. Everybody's busy. It's kind of crazy. I know you and I have been struggling to get a time when we could record. But yeah, here we are.
We got it. Episode 75. Going to start out I want to dedicate episode 75 to a previous guest, Tim Hall. Episode 54, I believe. I was actually going to look that up. I believe episode 54. Tim Hall, unfortunately, unexpectedly passed away here in the last couple of weeks since we've recorded last. And so I just wanted to give a little shout out to him. And for our listeners that listened, he did an amazing podcast about sales. Literally one of the best sales guys I've ever met. I mean, just a pit bull of a sales guy, great ICF sales guy, great MST rebar sales guy, great Hulk sales guy. Just
great advocate for the industry.
He was a great advocate for us. And I mean, a guy who was new to the industry. I mean, he learned it when he ran into us, excuse me, and started selling product to us on our ICF jobs and just jumped in both feet and continued to be a huge advocate for us. And so it's a major loss for us and for our industry to lose Tim. And so our thoughts and prayers are with his family and friends and associates there at Concrete Construction Supply. So he was the regional sales manager for Concrete Construction Supply and great dude. So anyways, positive thoughts, though, all positive thoughts. He was a positive guy, and he wouldn't want us being down about it. So life is short.
It is.
Hug your loved ones. Go play around the golf with your friends when you get a chance, and spend as much time with everybody as you can. And go back and listen to his episode. He's really got a lot of information there that could live on forever in the sales world and the people that he affected. So, anyways. Moving on, this episode, we are going to go into something that it's come up here recently quite a bit, just within our own world. And then also through people reaching out to, I mean, the one thing I'll say about the podcast is what it's done is it's really opened us up to a lot of people reaching out, which is exactly what we want. We love it. I mean, between WICFA and the podcast, we've really been inundated with questions and people reaching out and asking us about stuff and consulting on projects and different things. That's really been something that's increased here in the last year, especially. And one of the things that's come up, and I mean, I'm going to have we're going to lean heavily on the girl boss of this episode. So you guys don't have to listen to me talk as much, because this is where you're the strongest is managing expectations, scheduling, things like that in the construction world, where, obviously we come at this from an ICF standpoint, but I think this episode's actually going to be probably pretty generic. I mean, this would work for any construction. You're going to come at this from, over 20 years, 25 years in the construction industry, even prior to ICF. I mean, I think managing construction project expectations is a huge part of success, and probably more importantly, keeping your sanity.
Yeah. 100%. We've had this is kind of a combination. This episode will be a combination of listener question with regards to, what to expect during construction. It was been a listener question. It's been our member industry pros have asked it in WICFA, and just, we see it a lot, and it's one of those things that we check off when we're meeting with new customers in the drafting company and just, setting proper expectations. So,
Yeah, and I want it to be, this is the one thing I think that it brushes on is there's some kind of like negativity to it or positivity to it, to where you will literally have people get angry about it, right? Like
Yeah.
they're upset about the, expectation of, we got the podcast dog barking outside right now, but we have people that, they kind of start off, it gets them in a bad mood, right? It gets in a bad place. It needs to be kind of positive. And so I think where you don't want it to happen is if you don't have the right expectations, it's going to put you in a place where you're kind of mad about the situation. You may be mad at your contractor. You may be mad at, your drafting company. You may be mad at your engineer. You may be
bad at the whole process.
The whole process. And a lot of it, what we've seen and is, people call us and say, hey, I'm working with this drafting company or this architect or this engineer, and he's not doing this, and this. And it's been pretty it's been pretty interesting how people reach out to us to kind of, I think they're hoping for us to be like, yeah, those bad guys, they're doing it wrong. Here, let us tell you how to do it right. And it's funny because in a lot of these cases, what we've found when we've been consulting with people on, trying to help them, we found out that everything's actually going the way it's supposed to go. For the most part. And the thing is I think we live in a world where, on HGTV, you can see a kitchen get remodeled in 30 minutes or an hour, and you expect your kitchen remodel to take 30 minutes or an hour because that's what you saw on TV. And now you bring AI into this, and you bring all these different things where people think that everything is just going to go super smooth. And I'll be honest, I'll take responsibility. I'm really good or bad at presenting the positive aspect of ICF being easier and faster.
Yeah.
So we talk about speed and ease and how much, anybody can do it. And, and that's something I need to back up and, let me backtrack a little, step back from that statement a little bit. Everything's hard in its own way. Everything can be easy in its own way. I just, in ICF world, I think there's a lot of things that make it less, problems and easier and faster. But I think it almost sets an unreal expectation for people to come in and go, oh, it's Legos. And so we're just going to slap it together and it's going to go super fast. And that's not always the case. So I think we need to.
It's definitely not. And I think it's with anything. It's what we do. So I think at times we have a tendency to oversimplify it because it's what we do. The engineers, talking to them, sometimes they start speaking engineer and they oversimplify some engineering when they're talking about it. I'm not saying on all the construction documents, but I'm saying as they're talking about it, sometimes they make things sound simpler than they are. It's in any industry. It's, as a school teacher, all the way down to being a truck driver. There are things that we make sound easy that everybody in their profession makes sound easy because it's what they do every day.
Right. That's easy. Yeah.
Yes. They're used to things. A lot of things that happen are just like, it's really no big deal. But to somebody that's not doing this every day, it is a big deal.
I laugh because anyone that knows me knows I'm a foodie. I like to cook. I cook a lot. I do a lot of barbecue stuff. I've done competition barbecue. I've done a lot of that stuff. And the one thing I'm not good at is like knife skills. And I've always said like, I want to go take some knife skill class. And I watch the chefs, and they're like looking away from me and they're going and like chopping onions, super fast with a knife. They do that because that's what they do every day and they're really good at it. If I grab an onion and start, I'm going to lose tips of my fingers. I'm going to, it's not going to.
I leave the room when you start doing that.
Right. I'm not going to even attempt it because I know that they make that look easy and that's not easy. Right.
Yeah.
And there's aspects of that in every single thing you do. And I think that's what we have to start with. So I want to back all the way. Let's back this all the way up because one of the things that really prompted this was.
Well, first, before we get into that, though, we need a word from our sponsor.
Oh, is our sponsor here?
From our partner. Yes, we need a word from our partner.
Cool. Well, as you may or may not know, the ICF industry finally has a unified voice. The World Insulated Concrete Forum Association, or WICFA as we like to call it, WICFA is bringing together builders, manufacturers, distributors, engineers, designers, installers, and industry professionals with one goal, to grow the ICF industry through education, advocacy, collaboration, and real-world resources. Now, as a WICFA member, you'll become part of the growing network of ICF professionals with access to our private WICFA community, industry discussions, educational resources, training and events, and opportunities to connect connect directly with others working within the ICF industry. And through our public member directory, we're helping homeowners and builders find trusted ICF professionals and resources in their area. Whether you've been building with ICF for decades or you're ready to become more involved in the growing industry, there's a place for you at WICFA. Visit WICFA.org, that's WICFA.org today to become a member and help us build the future of ICF construction. Build stronger, build smarter, build with ICF. Joining WICFA will definitely probably help with your expectations because you're going to get some good quality members. But just a heartfelt ask from me, if you really do like what we do, we get a lot of great comments from people saying they appreciate this podcast. We're going on 3 years now of doing this. We're 75 episodes in. We do this because we love it, and we do it because we want to spread the word of ICF. And in April we started the World Insulated Concrete Forum Association to help spread the word even more officially. So a lot of people ask us what they can do to help. We don't take, what is it, the Pantheon or whatever, different, like money, donations, different things. What we do ask you to do is, if you wouldn't mind, join in WICFA, get involved. I mean, it shows your support. It shows support for us and what we're doing, and it helps spread the word, and it just gets it out there more and more. And there's just a ton of benefit to it. We are going to have, we have quarterly GMMs. We're going to have an in-person meeting at World of Concrete. It's, we've got a lot of things going on. So we sure would appreciate your support. And if you love our podcast, you love what we're doing, then we sure would like you as a member of WICFA. And I'd love to send you one of these cool hats. I'm doing this now because we're putting stuff on YouTube now, so I can actually say this cool hat and point to it.
Yeah.
This cool shirt I'm wearing that says "My house is stronger than your house." So anyway, we got the smart little piggy built with ICF shirts too. You get one of those by joining. So anyways, back to expectations.
Yes.
I think it backs all the way up to where I think kind of where this episode started from, honestly, was coming from the drafting side, and you get people calling saying, kind of blaming their architect or their draftsman or their engineer that they don't feel like they're not getting off on the right foot, or they're not starting. And what we found when we got into it, or you found a lot of times, is everything's going as it's supposed to go. So maybe start with what people should expect when they're doing their plans.
Yeah, I think when you're, and I can only speak to like what our timelines are, what our timeframes are, but when you are interviewing professionals, when you're starting your project, when you're starting the drafting and design part of it, oh my gosh, that airplane is so loud.
I know, but it doesn't look like it's showing up.
It's not showing on there. I wish everybody could hear that.
We just got buzzed by an airplane.
Yeah.
We got dogs barking. We got the airplanes buzzing over top of us.
And if all the doors on the house weren't open, we wouldn't hear it, but all the doors are open. But anyways, when you're starting out and you're interviewing professionals, one of the things that you need to ask them is, what should I expect? What is your turnaround time? What is typical? And I think they're all going to say, and I'll tell you what I'm going to say, is it depends. Every project is different. I can tell you what our standards are. Typically after we have a consultation with somebody, and we lay all of it out, we show them our homeowner proposal or our builder proposal, whatever it is that we're doing. It talks about our scheduling. It talks about our turnaround times. But I will tell you that a lot of our turnaround times are going to depend on how quickly our client gets back to us as well.
So I'm going to cut you off just for a minute and agree to disagree on something and take the opposite side of this.
Oh, okay.
Because I think yes, what you're saying is true. But I do believe, and I don't fault, I'm not blaming anybody. I do believe that there are some, especially, designers and draftsmen, architects, engineers aren't too bad about it. But I think some of them, if they're trying to get your business, sometimes they'll give you maybe the low end of what their, like best case scenario.
Yes.
And then all of us love to do this. We love to hear that number. The one we want to hear is the one we hear. So when they say it could be, we can get this done in probably 2 to 6 weeks, they hear 2 weeks.
Yes.
And so I would say, again, first little being, realistic expectation, go to the high side of what they say and put your brain there, because it goes back to the old sales 101, under promise and over deliver. Don't over promise and under deliver. And I think we as humans just tend to like to hear the positive, like, oh, he's going to be done in 2 weeks.
Yeah, 100%.
That's like literally the best case scenario.
Yeah.
But I know that there is some, especially if you're working with a new, small, young company, a lot of times they're, I see this with contractors all the time. They're like, oh yeah, we could get that done in 3 days. And you're like, really? That seems pretty quick. But they're like, nope, 3 days. But they want the job, right? So and it takes them 6 or whatever. So I would say that, yes, you are correct. But I would say when someone gives you a time frame, you're set yourself on a good expectation, go to the higher end and hope for the lower. But
yeah. And you're looking at like when we start with plans and same thing with, when we start construction, any changes that you make during construction are going just like any changes that you make while you're designing it. They take time to implement. They take time to double check. If there's changes that are made after engineering that affect the engineering, that will delay the engineers. I think the best thing that professionals can do when you're working with the homeowners and homeowners when you're DIYers and homeowners are working with their professionals, that communication is key. And I think professionals almost need to over communicate. And sometimes we get lax in this. I'm in the drafting company. We're like, okay, the project is with engineering and they told us they're going to be 4 to 6 weeks. So we set a timer on ours and we're going to follow up with the engineer every couple of weeks if we don't hear anything from them. But we need to be following up with those clients too. So industry pros, make sure that you're still constantly, I don't know what you call it in sales, but you're touching your clients even while we're waiting, when there's nothing really that's happening from you, you're waiting on somebody else. You still have to be communicating with those clients.
This is a little bit of, we've done episodes of this on my other podcast, the Wreak Havoc podcast that we do about sales and marketing. And I teach this all the time with sales guys. The smartest habit you'll ever acquire as a sales guy is reaching out to your customer to tell them good or bad news before they hear it from somebody else, because that's the one thing that you want to make sure that you're over communicating. And I know there's some guys, and I've gone rounds, I've sat in a room with sales guys. I don't got time to be calling people to tell them stuff that,
it doesn't have to be a call. It's a quick email.
Just or a text.
Or a text, yeah.
Because I guarantee you the thing is if you set that expectation and all of a sudden, we just had this happen with like some supply on some block on a different install where the install got pushed back 2 weeks and then nobody's talking to anybody about it. And then I find out, they don't. And then I talk to the general and say, sounds like we don't need to deliver that until this week because they're not going to be there. And he's like, what do you mean? I thought they were, so like there's definitely communication in there. And I think that again is an expectation that, there may have been one expectation, but when the expectations change, which they do, which is the whole probably purpose of this podcast is like, hey, expectations change.
The expectation doesn't change. The process evolves. The timeline changes. The process evolves. Things happen. I can tell you from 24 years in the building industry, things will happen. Guys will not show up. The
cranes break down. Pump trucks break down.
Family emergencies happen.
ICF, trucking companies don't pick up the block when they say they were. The block may be ready. Everyone did everything on their end they could, but Jim Bob, the trucker, decided he was going to go see his girlfriend instead of pick up the load on Friday, and now he's going to show up on Monday because he wanted a weekend off. That happens all the time. So
road construction happens. Road closures, fires. Yeah.
The reason my voice sounds like it does is because there's fires everywhere, and I was in Washington where the whole state is burning down, and I was breathing smoke for days on end, and I'm still recuperating from it. But it's like the fires shut down some of the trucking. We had loads that were stuck up in Canada, and they didn't want to have to drive through the fire or whatever. You just don't know. Like there's so many.
Yeah. Well, even
the whole process,
even like the little 2.5 hour or 2 hour drive for us down to Boise or drive home. Like literally, if we had an appointment that afternoon and we got stuck in the canyon for 4 hours.
2 hour drive was 4 hours.
Yeah, we got stuck there we went 8 miles in 3.5 hours and no cell phone coverage. So like sometimes communication is not possible when something like that happens.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I'm going to jump back again because I think that the engineering thing is a big one, because I have been guilty. Everyone's heard me on here, and I love all my engineers. I have to always preface when I say stuff.
Yeah.
I do. Love you guys. But I do know that we battle a lot with them. But a lot of times what we don't, I'm going to give them credit and defend them on this, because we find more times than not, it's somebody, either it could be the architect or draftsman that designed it weird, that made the engineering really hard to deal with. It could be the contractor or the homeowners got a certain thing in their head that they want it this way. They want this opening to be this big.
Mm-hmm.
They want it to be at this point, they want it to be a floating corner, whatever it is. There's certain things that you do that affects how that engineer, it's not just a punch of a button. These guys are doing stuff that, in their defense, can lose their livelihood. Like, they could lose their license if they did something wrong, and they could, not be able to put food on the table for their family. So,
and you think
this is
about
a very serious deal.
Yeah, and think about this too, because we actually had this happen. So right in the middle of a project, there were some new codes that were adopted that went into effect June 1.
Right. Changed what they were approving now is not approved, and they got to approve something different.
Yep.
So.
And we've had, because we do projects all over the United States and Canada and even into Mexico, like, as codes change, as things change, like, they're constantly having to double check back with the authority having jurisdiction, the building jurisdiction, as they're going through the project, because certain things change at different times. It's not always January 1 or, whatever. Building departments, we've had this happen. Just like I pull up the information and I fill everything out to go submit for a permit. And by the time I have everything done and I've completed their whole checklist, there's 2 or 3 things that have changed on the checklist.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be completely out of their control as well. But this all goes back to communication. And you have to manage the expectation and manage the progress, manage the delays by communicating with your clients.
Yeah. So moving on to, even like we touched a little bit on supply side, this is where it kind of is specific to, say, to the ICF thing. I can tell you, and I don't even know how many projects I've done or been on with ICF projects and stuff,
Yeah.
but like I consider myself, a professional. I've been doing this as long as most people, on the upper end of people out there. And I can still tell you that jobs get delayed when I'm out there. There's certain things that happen, and, you can only plan so much. Like, I think we've done a good job, to give a little plug for Innovative Draft and Design and all of our, ICF specific drafting companies out there. I think we're getting to where we're making better plans, that we are thinking way ahead, that stops the construction delays as
Mm-hmm.
much. That's a huge reason why you use a company that does understand ICF, because I know, over the years, I've gone out on jobs and then they go, yeah, this is where it's at. And I'm like, well, that's not really going to work with what we're doing. Like, we have to figure out how to brace that. We're going to really have to, because that's going to try to make the wall bow, or, there's a lot of different things. Like, okay, how do we get mud in there? Like, so all of a sudden there's points where you just have to stop and think and, figure out a solution to a problem that you can't rush. And the older I get and the longer and whiter my beard gets, is I figure out that, like, you're not going to rush me anymore. The mistakes get made when you rush.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell clients all the time, yeah, we thought we were going to pour on Thursday. Well, we're going to pour on Monday now, because I'm not going to rush this wall and have it go crooked on us or do something bad. So doing a lot of stuff that in the on the job site, in the dirt, we like to say, in the dirt, when we're out there in the dirt and things change, and how we've had hillside builds that you just can't get alignment down to, we end up having to bring a crane or something in, or we got to hike it down the hill one at a time instead of being able to take our crates down. So there's things that change that you don't account for. So I would say, like, going into that expectations of your job site thing, again, you're going to get a number. We kind of know how long it takes us to build out. We have it figured into our schedule, obviously, and when we quote it. But there's also times that, things are going to happen on the job site. Weather is probably,
Weather's a
for
huge one.
us, is a huge one. I think it's probably huge about anywhere other than San Diego, California, maybe, but like everywhere's got weather, right? It could be super hot, it could be super cold, it could be windy, rainy, whatever it is that could really affect how you're going to get around the job or be able to do the job or safety. I'm not going to put my guys in an unsafe situation. I mean, we've had, we get big thunderstorms here in the mountains where, lightning, thunder, wind, trees falling, and we're just not going to have our guys up on a scaffold trying to work when it, they could get injured. So there's things like that you have to keep in mind too. So setting an expectation that, that Mother Nature happens. Guess what? We don't have control of that. So there's certain things like that are going to change all the way from the supply side. Supplies change, things happen. One thing we had happen here recently, just real world stuff, is like we go from 1 week where everybody's like on hold now, and I'll let you know, to all of a sudden 5 truckloads come in a week. And then the guy calls that says, well, you said last week you had this in your shop. Well, I did have it in my shop, and now I've got 5 truckloads on order because my shop's empty, and every single truck that's coming in, the next 5 trucks are all pre-sold. They're all.
Yeah. If you call a distributor, and this is the same thing if you're building with firewood, if you call the lumberyard and you're ordering some specialty product that they have, if you don't purchase it right then and there, that does not mean they're going to have it in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 months when you call back.
It could be 7/16
It
OSB.
could be.
If you walk into a lumberyard and they've got 15 bunks of it, and then all of a sudden 2 days later, 5 guys call in and order, 3 bunks a piece, they don't have it anymore. And that's what happened to us here a few weeks ago. And we're still playing catch up. But it's like, but you've got this situation where people are, they're expecting it to be the way it was. Well, I mean, hey, newsflash, things change. And if all of a sudden, say the weather broke, usually is what happens, something breaks open and everyone goes, oh, I'm ready. Well, so is 10 other people.
Yeah.
So
or everybody got delayed at a certain point. I mean, take this even to down. Let's take it even out of the construction industry. Let's take it like in our area. So here recently, one of our roads for us to get home closed because of fires. Well, guess what? Our grocery stores didn't get their deliveries.
Right.
So you're delayed on getting groceries. And that's frustrating. But it is what it
your
is.
Expectation was to go to the store, you get a gallon of milk, and that's not going to happen today because the road was closed. So, yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of things like that. So I think kind of moving in from that and just getting into, even once we get it stacked up and moving out of there, you've got, we've had people had to come out and double check measurements for roof trusses and stuff. Like that's another one, right? Roof trusses and another one that slows things down a little bit. But like,
there's so many pieces to the puzzle, and I think that's the important thing to look at. That it's not one person, one company, one product. It is a large number of people, products, and companies coming together to construct a home or construct a commercial project or whatever it is that you're working on with ICF. There's so many people coming together to make that happen, that one person has something happen or one, you run into one delay with product. It's a domino effect down the road.
Well, and I think too that, I mean, going back to, we'll keep plugging ICF and why we love ICF, you're eliminating a lot of subs with an ICF build. So, if your insulator is going to be late, well, it's not a big a deal because all you got is a guy coming in to spray your roof. So, it's not
or do your energy. Yeah. Your
energy seal. Like you're not doing, like, so being able to do, have less subcontractors coming in, and then just the speed of your sheetrock guy is going to be in and out of there faster, your electrician should be in and out of there a lot faster. And so I mean, a lot of this stuff was where you pick up speed on some of this stuff too, so you're hoping that that's going to help balance it out. But
we've had jobs where we've actually made up time. We were delayed because a footing didn't get poured because of whatever reason, and then we were able to make that time up with the stack because we had beautiful weather. Everything went perfectly, got the stack done quick, and then, we made up that time.
Designed correctly.
So there, I think it ebbs and flows, and that's the important thing that I think for DIYers and homeowners to realize is it's always going to take longer than you think it is until it doesn't, and then that's great when we can deliver faster.
Yeah.
But like you said, kind of expect on the higher end of timelines.
Yeah, I think you just save yourself a lot of sanity.
Yeah.
You don't want your beard to be as white and gray as mine, then it's gonna, that will help if you just kind of keep your blood pressure down and try to, figure for longer time periods. But
Yeah.
and again, this is kind of an overreaching, statement about all construction jobs. And I think that, back to again plugging the ICF side of it, I think there's a lot of things that speed things up with
Mhm.
ICF, but there's also some things that we really, that you don't deal with other things, like say the pump truck is a big issue, right? You don't deal with as much pump truck issues. And I would say probably over the years, that's something that happens. Like pump truck shows up, something breaks. If it's
Mhm.
hot, they get plugged up and, you're pulling the, pump truck apart, trying to get hardened concrete out of the middle of it somewhere in the hose. But so, I mean, there's different ways like that obviously are different that could cause delay. But for the most part, I think we're going to pick up speed on, 9 out of 10 times against a stick frame build because of just having more,
Well, and I
speed.
will, yeah, and I'll talk about one of the things that like a very specific job and during COVID changed how I, as a general contractor, manage the job, because it seemed like as we moved along through the project, and it was everyone, this was happening everywhere during COVID. Like, okay, we got our footings in, and then we stacked our wall, and then we couldn't get concrete. All of a sudden, like they were limiting on how many guys could work and when we could get concrete. And then as soon as we got past that part and got our walls done, then there was a delay on, like we couldn't get certain parts of our HVAC system for our rough-in. And then there was wiring from the electrician, that was a shortage on wiring all of a sudden. It was like as we went along, every single phase, like you're starting to follow up with people way in advance. Are we going to be able to get the tile? Are we going to be able to get the cabinets? Are we going to be able to get this? And they're like, yep, we're good. We're good. We got your order in. And then all of a sudden, when you're 2 weeks out from it, they're calling you saying, okay, now we're delayed. And it just kept happening during COVID. So one of the things that I work with a lot of our DIY clients when they're, going to do their own ICF build is I recommend, order your materials as soon as you can. Order your windows as soon as you can, so you have those things on site, especially as a DIY, so you know what your exact opening is. So, you're not running into delays caused by inaccurate sizing, because your draftsman, your architect is putting in standard sizing, and sometimes your windows are a half inch smaller, sometimes they're exact, or a half inch larger, half inch smaller, they're exact. So you want to verify all of that information ahead of time, and if you have it there, then that's great. And as a GC, I have changed how I have done projects, because I start ordering things way in advance, planning on putting them in my warehouse or my client's storage unit or whatever, so that I know I have them, and that's not going to be a delay.
Yeah, and I think that's as easy as getting a storage unit or a shipping container, renting a shipping container for the job site that you can shove stuff in and have there in advance is huge. Interesting thing too is that you're seeing now that is a carryover from COVID, because COVID started the one sub at a time thing, which we never had. Like I growing up in the
Stack
construction
mechanical and electrical plumbing
construction industry, you'd walk into a construction site and your electrician would be there, your HVAC guy would be there, there'd be, framer might be there finishing up stuff. I mean, it's like you'd have 4, 5, 6 guys there at the same time. COVID, they made it,
in our area,
I think in most areas, kind of illegal, I guess you could say, for people to, you could only bring in one sub at a time. And so it was like, they didn't want people, breathing on each other. So they just would only, now we literally have had guys pull up to a job and go, well, I got there and the garage door guy was there, so I left. Well, you're not working on the garage door. You could go in and do the electrical, that's something that's carried over, and it's kind of funny. And we've been putting our foot down a little bit more on stuff like that, to where we're like, no, you're going to work. We need you there today, and you're going to work, so you don't get the luxury of having the whole house to yourself. You're going to have to go back to the way we've done it for 100 years, which is everyone gets in there when they can. So that's a kind of an interesting thing, but that's one of those things that has slowed down the construction process a little bit for people. And that's another one of those expectations. And you can be aware of that and make sure that you're talking to your subs and saying, hey, we're not in COVID anymore. You can be in there when the other sub's there. And so that's another thing. But
and I want to take this to the other side as well, because we work with DIYers and we have a lot of DIY listeners, those people that you're like, okay, I have more time than I have money to build my house. So I can take the time to stack the block and I can do this. And then they get halfway through the stack and they're like, oh my gosh, this is taking so long. I need to get somebody in here to get this done. And so I think there's also managing expectations when you're doing it yourself and this is not your everyday job.
Mm-hmm.
Just knowing that, if an ICF installer says it's going to take me, you have a single story ICF home, we'll get that stacked up in a week. We'll pour, we'll start on Monday. We should be ready to go for our inspection on Friday. We'll pour on the following Monday. Know that that's probably not how it's going to be if you do it yourself.
Yeah.
Especially your first time.
Yeah. Don't line yourself up on some of it. Yeah. That's not a good idea. So, and like I said, as the older I get, the more I say, we used to say a week of floor pretty universally. Now it's like a lot of times we push it back and just say 2 weeks of floor because it's just not worth the stress and the pressure. And if you're a DIY guy, I'd say 4 weeks of floor, it depends on if you're working on your full-time job and doing this on the side and different things. And I will say, like, if you do get in that situation, that's a great thing for you to reach out to WICFA. And some of us, we do have a lot of people around the country that can come in, consult and pick up kind of where you left off a little bit. It's not, I'll be very honest with everybody. It's not our favorite thing to do. It's not, when you come in like that, you need to have a little bit of grace with the installer that you do hire to come in and try to pick up where you left off or any other contractor left off. Cause a lot of times that's it is harder than us just doing it ourselves.
Well, you've got to double check stuff first.
So there's a lot of work in that. I have had people call me about frustration with that. I got this guy out here and he's charging me more than what it would have been. Like, well, that's maybe a little bit of a lesson that, like, you should have hired him from the beginning and it would have cost you less money. And that's usually kind of how it happens. But like I said, in the situation where I've got more time than money, which is a lot of what the DIY situation is, or they just want to do it themselves, just know you're probably going to just push through it in a longer period of time. And that's where you're going to save up your money, because even bringing somebody in midstream to try to fix or take over what you did probably is going to cost you more. It's not going to be relative to, let's put it this way. If the guy quotes you $30,000 for the install and then you say, no, I'm going to do it myself, and you get halfway through, it's not going to be $15,000 to have him finish it. That's not how it's going to work, because there's so much more work that goes into having to pick up where somebody else left off. You're probably going to be paying $20,000 or whatever it is. It's going to be more than half. That's not how the relation that works in that.
One of the things that I do is I'm like, okay, so if it was our stacking crew on this job, we've got 80 hours. So, but they're professionals. So for a DIY, plan on at least double that. So just setting those, it's back to that, setting expectations. And I know, like I said, we tend to oversimplify those things that we do every day because we do it every day. It's the same with anybody else in their line of work. They do it every day, so it's second nature. They don't even have to think about it. And that's kind of how it is for us with ICF and the industry pros and manufacturers and all that kind of stuff. It's not difficult, but there's a process.
Everything is,
Everything
is. Okay, I think that's about it, really.
Other than, before we wrap up, we want to give a special thank you to the organizations supporting WICFA and helping us grow the ICF industry. I'd like to thank our concrete sponsors, the ICF Manufacturers Association, the National Ready Mixed Concrete Association, and the National Association of Home Builders, specifically the Building Systems Council. And then I want to thank our gold level sponsors as well, G2 Building Products. They're distributors of MST fiberglass rebar and plumb wall alignment systems. So we want to thank our sponsors for their continued support of WICFA and the ICF industry. And I'd also like to thank all of our WICFA manufacturer members and our industry professionals and our DIY members. We have 3 levels of membership. Thank you for believing in our mission and supporting education, advocacy, and growth throughout the ICF industry. We couldn't do this without you.
I've never remembered that we have all these fun buttons. And
I know.
the bad part is the last time I used all the fun buttons,
I know.
the editing, I listened to it after, and the editing actually wiped out all of my sound effects. So then it made me sound like some kind of weirdo that I was talking about sound effects that didn't actually get into the recording. So,
All right, so you're going to have to double check that round of applause made it
right,
into...
I just hit a round of applause. In case it cleans it up again and I miss it, you should have heard some applause on that. But no, thank you. Those guys, I mean, we can't do it without them. And, and we've got space for more. So if you're listening to this and you'd like to be part of our sponsors, our partners that are sponsoring on this, we've got some openings for some more sponsorships. All our concrete sponsorships are sold out right now, but we do have some gold sponsorships
and
left
silver.
and some silver left. So
and then where are you going to be? That's one of the things I wanted to add to our podcast when we're closing it out, because I know like you're getting ready to you're going back to Northern California for an event there. I know you're going up to Calgary for a training. One of the ICF manufacturers is bringing you up there. I think you're going back east. You've got a schedule of where you're going to be representing WICFA. So can you kind of give us some of those where our listeners can maybe come and see you and check out ICF if you're a DIY or if you're an industry pro and you're looking for a training or you're looking for something? Where are you going to be?
I am going to be I'm turning around and look at my computer here. I am in Calgary next. So September 9th through the 11th, be at an event in Calgary with Superform. They're doing a big event up there, kind of bringing a lot of new people into the ICF world. There'll be obviously some experienced people in there as well, but myself and Harvey from Superform and Matt Bass, everybody, Trevor O'Neill, a bunch of the guys from Superform. And so we're going to be doing a big event up there, and it sounds like it's going to be quite the event.
Like
they're going to do
ICF installer training.
Yeah. There's
what
going
else
to
are
be
you
kind of
training
like
on?
a little bit of like, this will be kind of what is ICF, and then we're going to do an ICF training that day on Thursday, and then have an after hours kind of open house deal where we'll be talking with everybody about ICF and stuff. So that'll be right in Calgary. If you send me, I'm waiting on the details as far as like where the locations and stuff like that, but just reach out,
It'll be up on the WICFA website.
It will be on the
events.
WICFA website. And then we will under events. And then you can always just shoot me a message at info@buildwithicf.com and I can tell you where that is.
And then right after that, I know you're going to Northern California and you'll be there with, I think, Nudura and Element, Castle House Distributors.
Yeah, Castle House, that's going to be a really good event. It's a cross event with a bunch of different people. We're going to have, I believe Frank Gordon's going to be there. There'll be Bill Block, Nudura,
Element.
NRMCA will be there. Brandon Ray, I believe, is coming for them. Element's going to have people there. Michael Smith. If you guys get on LinkedIn and follow Michael Smith. He was on our podcast and he has just been going nuts on LinkedIn with just getting the word of ICF out there. He's being a great advocate for WICFA and been just awesome. But anyways, so that'll be in just outside of Sacramento, California. We're going to be doing that event that'll be on Friday the 18th.
Yep. And that is on the WICFA events calendar as well.
Yep.
And then in October, you're going to be in Detroit with NAHB.
Yep. So the 6th through the 8th, I will be in Detroit, Michigan with NAHB. We'll be out there doing some stuff, Building Systems Council, all the stuff with NAHB that we work with them. So that's the fall leadership meetings for NAHB. Super excited to get out there and do that and talk with a whole bunch of people there. And then
I'm looking, there's something else because I know
it's the NRMCA's Con Expo.
Yes.
So the Con Expo, and I don't have that on the calendar right now. I need to put that on there, but
that's
I'll have
Tennessee.
That listed too. So that is in October in Nashville, Tennessee. So we'll be there as well. So that's what we have booked right now. And then obviously the next scheduled thing that we have currently where I'll be at is going to be in World Concrete and Builder Show in Vegas. So, which will be having different events for that as well. And we have booths there. So WICFA will be represented at that. But yeah. And, if you got any events, stuff that you want us to be involved with, please reach out. Happy to see if it fits into our calendar. If it's something that you think you can benefit from having us there to speak on behalf of WICFA and spread the word of ICF. If that's, the Build with ICF podcast, however you want to, have us represented, but we're happy to get out and spread the word. That's what we're here to do. And if you've got anything that you think that we can help you with to help spread the word of ICF in your area, just don't hesitate to reach out.
And we do discount the speaker fees for those WICFA members.
Correct. Yeah. So being a WICFA member, you do get a very large discount on our fees to come out, speaking fees and stuff like that to come to an event. So it's something that you can reach out if you have any questions. Obviously, info@buildwithicf.com. Reach out to us or at buildwithicf on all of our socials. You can go to wicfa.org and reach us through there. And please spread the word. Get it. The more members we get, the more that generates revenue for us to be able to get out and go to these events and make sure that we're well represented and getting the awareness brought to ICF. I want to see us really grow and promote this industry in a way that it deserves. And we're happy to be the voice to do that. So please, everything you can do to help is getting us in the right direction, moving us in the right direction. So
yeah.
I'm trying to think if I can't tease the next one because I'm not sure exactly. We haven't set up an appointment yet for the next podcast, but
no, let's just keep them guessing.
We'll keep you guessing. Keep it coming back and we'll figure it out. But
we do got to get a listener question. So one out here pretty soon. So
yeah, I do. I am going to shout out my boy Gary. Gary's got some good one. I hear you, and he listens to all
one
the
of our DIY members.
Yep, Antenna Pod. He's got some amazing questions to make us think, and I want to put out to people too. So we've got a few things we're going to get on there. I'm talking with someone about. I've actually got two different people talking to me about trying to do ICF in foreign countries.
Mm-hmm.
That one's kind of intriguing. I'm trying to do a little more research because I'm not versed enough to speak on some of it, but I know like one of them is the Philippines. Like we're trying to, get some idea of like, how do you bring ICF into an area that's, I hate to say like third world country, but like it's like literally they know nothing about it, but it would be so perfect for it. I get a lot of those calls and emails. And so I'm actually working with one of our listeners on trying to figure out like, okay, how do we, who do we talk to? How do we get this, be approved in some of these areas?
Well, that's one of the things that WICFA does.
So that's kind of what members are getting out of, their membership is reaching out to me directly and kind of having me help them with their trying to get some things done in some different countries that haven't seen ICF as much, at least. And so, so a few different listener question stuff there. I've been we've been keeping track of all the listener questions, and we'll bring some on this upcoming episode. So we'll record another listener question. I just got to get a few more answers to those listener questions. I know that are honestly beyond what I know on some of that stuff. So I've never built in the Philippines yet.
But so if you missed any of the dates for where Trevor's going to be in the next coming months, don't worry. You can find him on the website. Go to wicfa.org or buildwithicf.com and click on the events link, and you will see those events. I know some of them we're still in the process of getting them up there, but we will be updating that. We update that just about daily, it seems like.
Yeah, and I'm really trying to kind of increase our posts on social media too. So, at Build with ICF on Instagram and on Facebook. And so if, trying to get those out there. So definitely follow us on Instagram and Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm trying to do a little bit better on that because I haven't been as good on there as I need to be. So we're going to get some of that stuff out there because that's stuff I can throw up, pretty quick and say, hey, this is where we're going to be. So that's a good place to always check too and check out what we're doing and what's got going on. I've got some good interviews from when we went to PCBC that I've been rolling out that are pretty fun that the media folks from Castle Rock Distributors put together for us and sent us over. It's kind of nice of them. Appreciate that. Shout out to 10X Construction and Castle Rock. Castle House. God, I say that.
Do it. It's okay.
Those Feder guys are in my head. Sorry, Michael. But the Castle House, and it's shout out to those guys for putting together really cool videos and stuff too. So I think that's about it. We'll just plan on getting together with you guys on the next one on episode 76, which will be a big surprise. We don't know what it's going to be yet.
All right. Till next time.